Hello and welcome to week 8. Well, last week I asked you to go out and identify trees. Whether you live by the woods or just want to walk down the road, go to a park, just get out of the house. Well, I did the same. I'm up at an undisclosed location. I actually came up to help cut down oak trees for firewood that have a disease called oak wilt. The trees start to really thin out, and then eventually the tree dies, and it's just a big standing oak log, basically. So I've been busy all morning, as you can see here, and as we go in way back there, and there's more over here, there's more over there. I've been cutting trees for firewood, so these will have to get split, but helping a friend out. But I figured, hey, we're in the woods. Let's go for a walk and see if we can ID some of these trees. Some of them are going to be pretty simple. Some of them, it may be a little bit more difficult, but I figure we'll identify, a handful together and go from there. First thing first, these little shrubs, they're autumn olives. How do we know that? Well, they're shrub-like. They're never going to get much bigger. They clump up. They're good for birds, grouse, woodcock, all those like them. The bad thing about them is they've got really pokey branches, so you got to be careful because they can stab you. But wildlife loves them, and the deer love them as well. So let's go see if we can identify. That's a shrub. I call her a bush. Let's talk about actual trees. All right, here's a tree. This one should be probably the easiest out of all of them. Leaves are just kind of petal-like. They have a little bit of serration to them. But look at the bark. It gives it away. Even with this tree didn't have leaves on it, we could ID it. It's a white birch. It's a birch tree. Paper birch, you may hear it called. They don't get super big anymore. There's again, another mold, fungus, whatever, that gets into them and kills them off many times. They don't get much bigger than about a foot round. And we know that our Native American friends use the paper, or the actual bark, I should say, the paper birch bark to make canoes. Fun fact on these two, if you're ever in a survival situation, that bark, if you peel it off, it'll burn. Whether it's wet, whether it's dry, it doesn't matter. That bark will burn. It has heavy oils in it, or a heavy amount of oil in it that actually will help it, burn, wet or dry. So if you're ever in that situation, don't go tear the bark off your tree in your backyard. It'll kill it. But that's a fun fact with the birches there. So that's our first tree. Let's go for another walk and see if we can identify some more. Let's go down here. More trees I cut up. Hopefully I don't fall while I'm walking with you. Kind of keep my eye on the ground. I've been trying to find morel mushrooms, but nothing. All right. Smooth bark. Could be one of two trees. Could be a beech. Beeches have smooth bark. Or it could be a maple. Well, I'm going to scroll up, and I can see his leaves up there. Hopefully you can too. If you can't, I picked one. It's a maple. Now, as the maple gets bigger, it will develop actual, scaly bark. But when it's I shouldn't say immature. This is a nice sized tree. But when it's still, under 12 inches or so in diameter, it's got smooth bark. More than likely, it's a sugar maple. We'll take a look at this leaf. Yeah, that's definitely a sugar maple. Nice trees, beautiful, quick. As far as hardwoods go, they're quick growing in the sense of, you can get a nice shade tree in about 20 years. And I know you're like, well, 20 years. Yeah, 20 years, you get a nice shade tree. Maple syrup obviously comes from these. The hardwood is prized for woodworking. We know that. It's they call it rock maple. The stuff's awesome for making tool handles, workbenches, bowling alley lanes. This property I found out that I'm on right now, a lot of the maples, the bigger maples, were logged off during the war for the war effort. They were making boats out of them, boat ribs for like the landing craft and so forth. So a lot of the wood or the lumber for the war effort actually came off this property in terms of maple. Now, right next to him, sounds like my neighbor's coming back on the floor. Right next to him, we got another smooth tree. What can this tree be? Well, it's smooth bark, so again, beech or maple, but take a look at the leaves. It's a beech. Beechwood, it's actually in the oak family. Again, it's lighter in color than like a red or white oak, but I can tell you that it makes good trim. That lighthouse that I work on, most of the interior is in beech. I'm probably going to have to yell and tell him because he's probably going to wonder where I'm at. Here's some nice sized trees here. Now these are both maples. Notice we're still in the maple category, but now this is an older tree and it's starting to get the scaly bark. So it really all depends, I mean, on the age of the tree when it starts to convert over from smooth to scaly. So then, let's see if we can find, we got one more tree I want to identify with you. Let's see if we can find an oak tree. Shouldn't be too hard to find. All these dead trees were oaks. All right, let's keep walking. Keep walking. Gotta find ourselves an oak tree. Let's see. Look it up in the oak tree. More maples. Lots of maples. There's an oak. And he looks like he's starting to get disease, so he may be coming down next year. Take a look at the bark. Scaly bark. These are beautiful oaks. They're really tall. There's an oak too, actually, right there. Tall trees. I mean, you're talking, that's probably 80 feet. It's huge. 60, 80 feet. But again, the leaves are going to tell us. These are all red oaks. If you take a look, I don't know if we can actually zoom in or not while I'm filming. I can zoom in. See the leaves, how they're round, or are they rounded or pointed? I can't really tell, actually. I don't have my glasses on. Pointed, that's a red oak. Most of the oaks in here are red oaks. And we can tell that because if we actually look at the firewood we're cutting, it's got that red tint to it. So those are all red oaks. Notice too, just nice straight trees. A lot of times you'll get doubles because how do they get planted? Squirrels burying acorns and then forgetting about them. And then pops a tree. Yeah, these are all really tall oaks all throughout here. So we've identified a birch, a maple, red oak, and a beech tree. I think for this area, that's probably about all we're going to find. There may be some popples if we look, but this is a pretty old growth, well, not old growth in that sense, but older growth, meaning, you know, all hardwoods. I did see, you know, where was he? Thought I saw a pine around here. We can go see if we can find him. I know where there's a pine. Here, let's go for a quick walk. We can do one softwood. Sorry if the camera's all jumpity bumpity. I know I saw a pine back here when I was cutting yesterday. Trying to make sure I don't trip over some of this firewood. Because I wanted to make sure I did not hit him when I dropped a tree. Let's see, I thought I saw a nice pine. There he is, I see him. I can see his bark. Yeah, there's more oaks down here, or over here, that I cut yesterday. You can see the stumps. They're beautiful trees. If we weren't going to take them for firewood, they would definitely make nice lumber. I mean, this is a veneer tree, they'd call it. There's not a single knot anywhere in here. So this is actually premium stuff, but we need firewood. All right, where'd he go? I just saw him. Where did he go? Oh, there he is. He's hiding on me. Well, it's not a white pine. I can tell by the top, although the one next to it is. Actually, that may just be a eastern yellow because of the way yeah. So there's a pine. He's easily identifiable. Yeah, it's not a white pine. The acorns are too small. But there's an eastern yellow pine. Great, fast-growing trees, and most of our paper products come from these, you know, when they're smaller, honestly. He's probably, I bet you he's 30, 40 years old, maybe a little more. But again, easily identifiable, scaly bark. If you probably could find sap on it somewhere, and then at the same time too, it has pine cones. So it's a coniferous tree. It always will be green, even in the winter. Never loses its leaves because it doesn't have any. It has needles. Again, we build our houses out of that all day long, so it's plenty strong, and it's prized for its lumber. So I'm going to walk back, and hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you complete last week's assignment. Make sure you get it. Whoa, something just ran at me, or ran past me. Must have been a little chippy monk. But anyways, make sure you get that done. Take care, and we'll be back Thursday.